My name is Anastasia Milan, and I'm from New York City. I grew up with big dreams. I've always had a personality that loved people. I love making other people laugh, and deep down, I always had a love for God. I was raised knowing who Jesus was. I wasn't perfect though. Trust me, I was far from it. But there was always a spark in me that wanted to do something meaningful in my life. I've lived in different places: New Orleans, New York City, and I've met all kinds of people. And I've had seasons where life looked so glamorous from the outside, but behind the scenes, I was battling darkness. Before I tell you my story, you have to understand I wasn't someone who set out to live recklessly. Life just had a way of presenting you with doors. Some were good, some were bad. And when you're not walking closely with God, you don't always see which ones are actually traps. You know, I have always been a hustler. I have always known how to make money and survive. And because of that, I thought I was in control. But I learned the hard way. I learned that later, you can think you're in control and still be on a leash that the enemy is holding on to. And eventually, sometimes I'm ashamed to say this, but it is my testimony. Eventually, I stepped into the adult entertainment industry. And on the surface, it was exciting. The money was so good. The attention was constant. And the people I met were famous, powerful, and they were connected to all the who's who's in the industry. And from the outside looking in, it looked like I was winning. I was finally winning in life. I was being flown out, traveling state to state with NFL players, basketball players, and even rappers. I even danced for a few politicians. I was in rooms and at tables that most people would only see in the movies. I thought I was living the dream. I was in luxury hotels. I was gifted with all these expensive treasures and clothes and shoes, and I was just getting the VIP treatment, the princess treatment. And yes, even though I kept going back because of all these shiny things, the money, the attention, the luxury trips, the people, all the people in the spotlight, the truth is, it was dark and it was a shady, shady lifestyle. Because behind the flashing lights and the VIP tables was a world full of predators, manipulation, and danger. I saw things and I went through things that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. I was in situations where my safety was on the line, where I felt powerless, and where my worth was treated like it had a price tag. From everyone else, from my family or my friends, they thought I was living a dream, but on the inside, I was living in a nightmare. It was a world where your body was a commodity. Your feelings didn't matter, and your trust could get you hurt. It definitely got me hurt. And the world saw glamour, but my soul only knew bondage. And while all this was going on, I was so confused. I was in a spiritual warfare. I could literally feel a tug of war in my soul. God was pulling me one way, and then the enemy was pulling me the other direction. I remember there would be nights at work. I would come home, or I would be in my hotel room after dancing and being seductive for hours, where I would come home and just turn on the shower and sit there and cry while the water hit my body and hit my head. I would cry until my body shook, and I would ask God to either take me from this life or take my life away completely. I just knew I didn't want the devil to win, but I didn't know how to escape. And on top of that, I was carrying so much weight that wasn't even mine. In that life, you're not just connecting with people physically, you're connecting with people spiritually. The Bible talks about soul ties. And that means whoever you're with, you're also taking on their baggage, their demons, their trauma, their addictions, and their fears. I carried so much that wasn't mine. I had spirits attached to me that made me feel heavy, depressed, anxious, and lost. Yeah, I used to smile on the outside, but inside I felt chained. And every time I thought the next paycheck or the next night out would make me feel better, it only made me worse. It made me feel so empty. And I need you to hear this. I had moments when I wanted to die. I would cry out to God at night and beg Him to take me out of that lifestyle. But deep down, I was also blaming Him for letting me be there in the first place. I pushed Him away, even though I still loved Him. Something in my soul kept me at His feet. Because when 2020 came, the pandemic, oh my God, whew, the world shut down and I was in New York City, so everything stopped. The streets were empty. The fear was real in the air. I thought, this is it. I'm gonna die. We're all gonna die. I didn't know what to do. But the only thing I knew to do was to call out to God. And in that moment, all the walls I had ever built against God crumbled. I knew I didn't want to die in my sin. I did not want to go to hell. I didn't want my story to end in darkness. So I prayed. I really prayed. For the first time in years, I told God, I'm tired. I can't do this anymore. Please come back into my life. Please take this from me. And right there, He met me. Not when I was clean and put together, but in my brokenness, in my own mess. And since then, I just been doing my best and loving God and talking to God more. I have now moved to the West Coast and I haven't been the same. I'm on a walk with the Lord now and I'm growing every single day, but I'm not perfect. Like I said, the enemy still tries to pull me back, especially when money is tight or I can't buy the things that I once used to buy, or I can't travel as much, or work is slow. Those thoughts creep into my head. Go back to the money. Life was so much easier, but it really wasn't. And that's a lie from the devil, because depression was always close behind. But here's the difference. Now that I know that those thoughts aren't from God, I know that the devil is trying to distract me from the future that God has for me. And I refuse to go back to what God rescued me from. I learned the hard way that what glitters isn't gold. The world will promise you instant success, power, and pleasure. And the enemy will give you a crown. Don't get me twisted. But it's made of thorns and it will hurt you. It will cut you and it will destroy you from the inside out. But God, on the other hand, He gives you something the world cannot take. And that's peace, that's joy, and that's eternal life. And that's worth more than any amount of money I have ever had. I stand here because of Jesus. He is my living hope. When I wanted to die, He reminded me that I was worth dying for. He took my shame, my sin, my mistakes, and He nailed them to the cross. And now God lives in me. He walks with me through the highs and through the lows. And even when the enemy tries to tempt me with what I left behind, I could stand on this truth, that God's plan for me is greater than anything in the world or anyone in the world or anything that anyone could ever offer me. And if He can pull me out of death, if He could take my thoughts of suicide away, if He could pull me out of turmoil, He can do it for you too. All you have to do is say yes. Yes, Jesus, I surrender. Thank you for hearing my testimony. I'm just grateful for God and for Him dying on the cross. Thank you. Be blessed.